All right. So the Fantastic Four, eh?
That's
Looks
right.
like we got a great group assembled here today, and it's really more like the Fantastic Three with my teammates Javier Navarro, Mauricio Alcocer, and Kyle Perloff. Today we're going to talk about trade between the U.S. and Mexico. We're going to talk about how government regulation has really, I would say, brought forward some visibility issues that have always been there. Some of you may have heard Laredo referred to as the black hole. That's because visibility issues have always existed between the U.S. and Mexico. The tariffs brought those forward to a lot of our clients that maybe have taken those for granted or never dealt with them officially. But our clients have been asked to model the impact of tariffs. There was a lot of start, stop. Should I pull my inventory forward? Should I hold my inventory? What's going to happen to the cost of the product? And they really got forced into scenario planning. So that's what we're going to talk about today is what are some of the obstacles and complexity that our customers have faced historically in 2025. And with that, Javier, let's turn it over to you to talk about what our clients are dealing with on the U.S. side of the border.
Uh, yeah, thank you, Mike. Hey, everyone. Basically, our experience with American companies regarding cross-border freight has been issues on two main ends. The first one is the compliance and regulatory portion. So lately, to this point, things like Carta Porte, recently the Aviso Automático de Exportación out of Mexico for certain HS codes, UFLPA regulations, etc., have been making it a little more complex to move cargo across the border. For example, the Aviso Automático, it's taking or it will take a few days to get that approval to cross the border, which basically means booking trailers on the Mexican side to cross on time on the U.S. side is gonna get delayed there. This definitely causes potential bottlenecks at the border, capacity imbalance for sure, because there's definitely going to be way more yards in Mexico with drop trailers just loaded there, pending to cross, waiting for that authorization from the Mexican government. And a lot of things are still up in the air, but that's one that's definitely concerning our American customers. And the other one, you mentioned it very very rightly, Mike, and it's something that been for quite a while in Mexico. That's the visibility, right? And visibility comes in two main fronts, right? The first one is the infrastructure part. So in infrastructure for telecommunications in Mexico, it's way better than it used to be years ago. However, there's no ELDs, for example, in the US that are traditionally used to track real-time trucks here and there and stop-offs. In Mexico, there's no that. So we have Cuenta Espejo in Mexico that are basically the GPS tracking from the carriers. We have drivers using their own cell phone if they choose to, right, being tracked by an app through a link. And all those things require a lot of manual input that makes it a little cumbersome for companies to have full visibility as normally comes in the US, right? Traditionally, companies invest in Mexico, hoping to get a lot of manual work in all fronts, not just in manufacturing, but also in office and follow up and dispatching, right? Against an investment in software. But we're seeing a big push from companies, especially in the US, that's where I focus the most, in having those kind of benefits also in Mexico. So trying to push to adopting TMSs, rolling out TMSs that they use in Mexico to their Mexican counterparts and start servicing those, right? So it's definitely two of the things that are making it right now a little more complex going forward.
Thank you, Javier. And one thing in particular is just some of the changes from government policy would be like the English speaking requirement. Have you seen that impact capacity along the southern border?
It has a little. I think it's just starting. It's very early stages, but I think what's driving that the most is the uncertainty, right? So the uncertainty on many fronts. The issue with tariffs that we've been dragging from early this year, on and off, etc. We have customers that have that paused for a couple of months their exports and then came back up, which basically means they need a lot more equipment to export at the time, and they get peaks and valleys more than what they used to. The other one is the USMCA renegotiations coming next year, right? So we don't know what the posture is going to be with the both administrations, Mexican and American, and also Canadian. How is that going to land? And this comes after many years of record-breaking investment in Mexico. Basically, we have lined up plants and new facilities and manufacturing sites lined up already with money in it that are under construction, that are right now in a position where we don't know if it's gonna be moving forward, right? The English proficiency on drivers as well is definitely also driving uncertainty. Why? Because American companies are being way more thorough in what kind of company they're using to move their freight, who's the driver, etc. That is going to affect definitely the spot market out of Laredo, out of El Paso, out of the main border crossing points, because owner operators are going to be a lot more under the scope right now. And the other one is the B1 driver limitations, right? So there's definitely talks about that. B1 drivers are a great tool to move cargo across the border from Mexico into the U.S. There's definitely limitations, and we don't want to get into political debate here, but it's affecting both capacity, projections, etc., but also investments, right? We've seen recently Nissan pulling out of Mexico, some of the manufacturing, big news on that. But we also see Volvo Trucks opening a new facility in Mexico, right? So we have that still on both ends. Those are definitely going to tighten the market within the next 12, 18 months, a little more than it is now. It's been soft for quite a while, so it's up for tightening.
Yeah, I think uncertainty is the theme this year. No matter if you're looking at the enforcement of the English proficiency, if you're looking at the impact of that tariff, and then the start-stop, and there's many things still on the horizon. So scenario planning is a real term in supply chain. And with that, Mauricio, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about the Mexico perspective.
Well, Mike, I see three challenges. So you have operational, logistical challenges. You have security and risk, and compliance, as Javier just mentioned. So the first two, we've always had security and operational challenges when you have freight coming into Mexico. Compliance is changing every year. And 2025 and 2026, again, as Javier mentioned, are going to be crucial. There's going to be a lot of reforms. There's going to be a lot of things happening. So going back to operational challenges, once the freight crosses into Mexico, carriers can't deliver directly. You're dependent on Mexican carriers. That handoff is a little messy, and you expect delays, miscommunication. So you have to really consider that. Infrastructure gaps, highways are improving. You have very new highways, but congestion, toll roads, and limited intermodal options do spike costs once you have in-country or domestic Mexico alternatives. Unlike the U.S., not every city has a streamlined DC network. Last mile in Mexico can be very unpredictable. That's something that you should consider. Security risks. Sad to say, Mexico is the number one country in Latin America for cargo theft. So there are hotspot routes like Querétaro to Mexico City, or within Veracruz. Some states are very, very dangerous to be on the highway. So ignoring security is asking for trouble. So escorts, GPS, insurance, all these protections are standard, and they should not be optional. They do add cost, complexity, but are very, very necessary. And the last one, my compliance. Mexico Cartaporte, again, as Javier, you just mentioned,
Yep.
That supplement is a nightmare. If you're not prepared, one wrong data and your truck gets stopped, customs paperwork coordination, if your pedimento, your invoice, factura, or carta porte don't align, our tax authority can freeze your shipment, even if it's customs, if customs already cleared it. So these three challenges for 2025 and upcoming 26 are something you should consider besides the reforms.
Good feedback, Mauricio. And as we talk about the changing political landscape, I saw the Mexico president, Claudia Sheinbaum, recently made some changes to the customs law. I think this came out last week. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and what should our customers know about that?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of things that shippers and importers really need to consider. These reforms are part of Mexico's 2026 economic package and a broader industrial strategy. The government wants things to be more digital and more controlled. That's basically what's happening. So customs brokers will be facing tighter rules. License terms for these customs brokers are now going to be 10 years. Renewal will have to go through compliance, tests, other things that customs brokers need to consider. There's going to be stronger penalties for misclassifications, wrong valuations on products, and incomplete data. So that's something that you really need to consider. Tariffs initially are thought to be starting through December 31st, 2026, and could possibly extend. But we're talking about introducing new tariffs between 10 and 50% on imports from countries without free trade agreements. This is going to apply to 16% of all tariff codes. We're talking about 1,300 tariffs, covering sectors like automotive, steel, plastic, furniture, textiles, electronics. So shippers and importers really need to consider these new tariffs. So there's going to be more scrutiny on goods from non-FTA countries like China. Asian countries that really need to consider everything that needs to be evaluated before importing into Mexico. And basically what they want is to harmonize customs law with USMCA and other free trade agreements. So this is really going to have a lot of impact in this region, Mike. And again, if you're not in the region and you're importing into Mexico, you need to consider all these new changes and all these new updates coming.
Well said. So Kyle, we've heard from Javier and Mauricio talk about the U.S. and Mexico side. We've talked about scenario planning and the digitization and trying to connect all the various partners that you need to talk to and crossing between the U.S. and Mexico. So how is technology becoming more prevalent in Mexico, and what are some of the solutions you're seeing?
Yeah, thanks, Mike and Javier Mauricio for the background there. I mean, you've just heard it, right? Cross-border complexity is real. And, with all the policy shifts and on both sides of the border, quite frankly, it's just growing. So, the big question becomes, what can we do and how can we start to solve for the visibility gap and do that without adding more systems and complexity into an infrastructure that may not be ready for it. And that's exactly where Redwood Connect can come in. Redwood Connect is our integration platform, but it's not just for track and trace. It solves the critical need for supply chain and logistics orchestration and starting to connect that, in some cases mature, in other cases immature infrastructure. So it's our kind of digital glue, if you will, unifying customers, shippers, data, processes, systems between all those different players that Javier and Mauricio were just mentioning, right? I mean, there's just a ton of moving pieces, especially as you're looking at, cross-border logistics. So most of those shippers on both sides of the border are dealing with a TMS, a global trade system, an ERP, WMS, carriers, compliance tools, you name it. And most of those tools don't talk to each other. So Redwood Connect really is a way to connect all of those systems into a single real-time flow of data and information. So that means, you're able to see your freight as it's moving across the border, what the next steps are, where delays might be happening, and ultimately make faster real-time decisions all in one platform. Instead of managing all this chaos through emails and phone calls and some of the manual steps like Javier was mentioning, Connect can be a true operational visibility from pickup to final delivery, and including that critical handoff between all the different border operators.
So Kyle, how have you seen Redwood Connect really reach the differentiation in the industry? What do we do differently with the tool than some of the other business to business integration platforms?
Yeah, I think it's not just seeing freight on a map, right? It's about making your cross-border supply chain smarter, faster, and much more resilient to all these changes. And a lot of the visibility tools on the market show you where your freight is. Again, that's useful, but Redwood Connect goes beyond that. It's integrated into your actual processes and data that run your supply chain. So what makes it critically different than some of those other options is it's not a one size fits all off the shelf tool. It's a solution that we tailor to your exact supply chain needs and border processes. It was built by logistics practitioners specifically for logistics complexities in the ecosystem, and it's meant for logistics users to be able to manage easily and openly with whatever a customer's tech stack might look like. So, kind of said plainly, I guess it connects your systems, your partners, and your data, not just ours, but yours. And it also has, pre-built connectors from our extensive history as a 4PL, working with numerous partners across the logistics world. So you're not dealing with those traditional long custom integration projects. You're talking about, a quick get you up and running fast solution that also allows you to easily scale again with all the changes we've heard about. So, again, it's not just a visibility tool to kind of bolt onto your freight network. It's a fully integrated platform that is going to give customers visibility, automation, and supply chain orchestration. And Mike, I mean, that's not just us saying it, right? I mean, Gartner recently recognized us for building a modern 4PL model backed by Redwood Connect, and Redwood Connect was specifically called out as a key differentiator across modern 4PLs because it really enables our shippers to break down silos and automate decisions and adapt to fast changing environments, just like we're seeing here in cross-border logistics. So
Yeah, well said. I think in closing, we've talked about the complexities of trade between the U.S. and Mexico. We've talked about the changing landscape, how elections do have consequences, and tariffs and scenario planning are more prevalent. How our clients are needing to evolve with that, how they need to answer Wall Street, their board on the impact of tariffs, and we've talked about how Redwood, to your point, Kyle, is really well positioned, and we're really proud of the designation from Gartner as a modern 4PL. Out of the 30,000 3PLs in the industry, only 16 received the designation as a modern 4PL.
wow.
And as Kyle mentioned, Redwood Connect sits in the middle of that. So if you're listening to this today and you're trying to link your ERP and your WMS and your TMS and your customs broker and your capacity providers and your customers, then Redwood Connect can and does sit in between all of that. It helps you bring all your data points together so that you can't improve anything you don't measure. And Redwood Connect really wants to integrate all that to bring that data to you so you can begin to do the different scenario planning to make sure to model out tariff A, B, or C, to model out your inventory, to pull forward or to hold still, integrate with your truckload providers, rail providers, WMS, TMS, ERP, data lakes, whatever app's going to come out next year in 5 years. Redwood Connect is really that integration tool that we've really seen help our customers solve some of these complex needs. So with that, I want to thank you, Javier, Mauricio, Kyle. We have, if you're listening to this call and you got any questions, reach out to any of us on LinkedIn or go to redlogistics.com, go to our cross-border page, and from there we can engage and answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.